This is the future.
What's up, YouTube and Facebook, and welcome to Not Quite Mint. Today we're spotlighting our keys in isolation on the Man of Steel, Superman the Daddy, as it were, the king of all comics. Shall we get into it?
Yeah, let's get into it then, Tom. As always, guys, if you are new to the channel, do make sure that you hit, obviously, the subscribe button, give us the thumbs up, and press that little bell icon next to the subscribe thing. Just make sure that you don't miss any of our uploads, our streams and stuff like that, and you can obviously keep up to date with all of that. But yeah, Superman, mate, it's pretty epic. We have obviously got also, just to point out, we have also got obviously all the social media and stuff. So do make sure you check that out. Obviously, Rags will tell you to do that. It's all good, mate. It's all good. But yeah, so I'm in slightly new surroundings. It's the same spot, but new surroundings for anybody who's been watching us for a little while. But feels quite nice, actually. But the computer screen's off to the left, so if I'm looking off to the left, I haven't lost the plot. It's just that I'm looking at the screen. So
we'll let you off, mate.
Let us off. So yeah, we're going to do keys, Superman keys. Pretty excited to do this because
there's so many Superman keys. It's really hard to narrow it down.
It definitely is. Now, I had a prop, and I've lost the prop, and it was made for this moment, and I don't know who it is. Yeah, so Superman, just a little bit before we start, he was my very first favourite superhero, and when I was little, my mum and dad didn't have a lot of money, and I loved Superman. I used to watch, like, I don't know what it would have been, whether it would have been a cartoon or old Superman stories or something like that, or probably just the fact that my dad had some Superman comics knocking about. But my mom made me this bad boy.
That's amazing.
So there you go. You can see the Velcro. Yeah. So my mom made me this, and there are distance of me in a Superman costume as a child wearing that cape.
Does it still fit?
It really doesn't, because it's like about this big.
Around your neck is the most important thing.
Does. Yeah, man. The cape definitely does. I'm surprised. I was surprised, actually. If my brother would have found this, check that out. If my brother would have found this, I probably would have ended up wearing it on my stag do or something like that last year. But
I'm just going to text the missus because she's outside in the studio and ask her to get mine.
But yeah, man. So Superman, I think I've said this before, that Superman for me, he was the first superhero I ever liked, like before Spider-Man, all the rest of it. However, he's one comic book character that I have hardly any comic books of, literally, like hardly any. And I think the reason being is that I got into, and we'll come to this obviously as we go through the keys, I started with Superman. I think I've just established I was about 12 years old, like around about the whole death of Superman sort of period of time. And I had those were the first comic books that I ever had. We bought them when I was on holiday in Florida with my mum and dad in a comic shop somewhere in Florida, in Orlando. And I remember buying them. But as I grew up and collected, like, you know, Ultimate Spider-Mans and all that of the 2000s, when I sort of collected comics, I still never went back to Superman comics, and I've hardly read any Superman comics compared to anything else. It's really weird.
I'm the same, mate. I mean, I've never really got into Superman. I've never really been a DC fan. Not that I don't like DC. I mean, I do like Superman. I do like Green Lantern, and I do like Batman. But I've never really specifically been drawn towards those characters and them runs. I've always been a Marvel fan, always, from day one.
It's really weird, like, because I mean, I love, like, when I was again younger in the 80s, the Christopher Reeve Superman films. I used to watch them on repeat. Like, I love the films, but that, like, I think what it was is because I'm quite completist in the way that I collect. I like to start with the first issue, and then obviously buy like the full run type of thing, or as much as I can. And with obviously Superman being so expensive, those first issues, I've got no chance of getting close to
most expensive toilet paper on the planet, mate.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's what I say. Like, you like, there's no way. What is it? 1940. We might as well get into it, hadn't we? With the
Yeah,
key.
let's do it. Let's do the first one.
So, first key is we're going to talk about what is effectively the most expensive key of Superman, but it's also the most expensive key in the whole of comic book collecting.
It's the most expensive comic book, period. It is the key, but even if it wasn't, it'd be the most expensive comic book of all time.
Yeah,
the most expensive toilet paper from the 1940s.
Yeah, so it was what, 19? What was it? The dates on
I want to say World War II. It was about during.
Yeah, so 1938. This one was actually the first produced. So yeah, June 1938. Action Comics #1. And we read this, didn't we? What did you do?
Yeah, it's coming up. We read this for Comic Combat.
Yeah, we read this for one of our series that we did pre-lockdown that we've never got around to being able to do any more episodes of, have we? So we've kind of holding on to it till lockdown's over. But yeah, Comic Combat. But we both read this issue, didn't we? And mixed reviews, I think.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's got a first appearance of Superman, obviously. First appearance of Lois Lane. It's got the first appearance of Zatara, which is Zatanna's father. And it's got the first appearance of Tex Thompson, who then later on becomes Mr. America. Yeah. So it's got a lot of first appearance in. But I also really like that it almost tells the future in this comic book, because right at the end, in the last panel, they're like, Superman will be the greatest superhero of all time. And in all fairness, that statement is so true right now.
Yeah, and considering that he was created pre everybody else who's obviously came after him from, as I say, from 1938, the fact that he is, it's mad. Yeah, it's like, the fact that he still is, like, some people love him, some people hate him. He's the OP superhero. Depends on which angle you come at.
Well, love him or hate him, is he or is he not the first person you think of when someone says a superhero? Everyone says Superman. It's very rare. Even if you don't like or are interested in comic books whatsoever, and you say to someone, what do you think of superheroes? Instantly they'll go, I don't like Superman, or I like Superman. Do you know what I mean? He's always the first one that people go to, in my opinion.
No, you're right. I mean, for reasons I've already said, it's like he was the first superhero that I had anything to do with, and I just from I don't know, probably the age of, I think my mum was saying she made this cake for me when I was about 4. So, literally from that young age, Superman, that was it for me. But I've got no real idea of why I loved him so much at that early age, really.
No, nor me, mate. To be perfectly honest, I mean, I've never really read much Superman, but I knew his origins, and I knew who he was, and I knew his emblem, even though I'd never read it.
Yeah.
And that shows the power of him as a character, in all fairness.
I can only think that it's a similar thing to why Star Wars has been so influential on me as well, is that the films must have came out around about that sort of time, around about early 80s and stuff, and I just must have picked up. Yeah. Because I know obviously what Star Wars was, I think, 78. I'm not sure when the first Superman Christopher Reeve film came out, but I have a feeling that was around about the same time. So yeah, I think that's got a lot, just got to have a lot to do with it, really.
Yeah, man, I would say so.
But I mean, if we talk about numbers, I have got obviously the numbers wrote down. So the most expensive Action Comics #1 to have sold.
Not even 9.8, is it?
No, it was it was a 9.0, so 9.0 in 2014. So that's I thought that one had sold for more recently than that, but yeah, 3.2 million for 9.0. There's only in total of this book, CGC have only graded 74 total copies.
That's because everyone used them as toilet paper.
Any grade, that's of any grade. So this is like, it's amazing. Now, one thing to point out,
Richard Nash has just popped in. He said, Superman is OP. Imagine if he used a lightsaber. Totally. He doesn't need one, but that would be insane.
What a mashup that would be. So yeah,
that actually, if you stick around, Rich, one of the books I'm going to talk about, sort of my picks, has something similar.
I love it. The laser eyes, though, in a way, they're like portable, like dual lightsabers in a way. Sort of like, but yeah, if he actually had a lightsaber, that would be pretty cool as well.
If Superman was evil, we'd all be dead.
Yeah, you've not seen that film Brightburn, have you? I was tempted to try and get Tom to go and see. If anybody's seen it, the film Brightburn, it's like it plays on the fact that the nature nurture. If Superman still had good family, but actually he was a bit of an evil so and so from birth. It's a really good. I took the wife, and she was petrified by it, which didn't score me any points anywhere. But I loved it. So. Happy days. But yeah, most recent sale of a Action Comics #1 was in September 2019, but it was a restored 9.4, and that sold for $250,000. So okay. Yeah, so like
$250,000. I've got that lying around, mate. I'll take two.
Yeah, I know. I was like, what? So yeah, so it's just mad money. But
I did a bit of research because I wasn't sure what the crack was on like raw copies of this, and there isn't that many have been sold. No. But I did find one, and one was sold about in 2019 for 145,000.
It's nuts, isn't it, man?
It is.
Yeah, but
just imagine you go and sort out your loft or something, and there's a little chest from your grandfather, and in it is this comic collection, and you found this bad boy. That'd be it. Game over.
Wipe your ass with it, wouldn't you? It'd be the first bit of toilet paper you'd use.
Yeah, absolutely. That'd be the first thing I'd do with it. I'd wipe my bum with it.
But yeah, absolutely insane. So yeah, so that is first appearance and most expensive, but we do obviously always do a most expensive slot, and it'll be no sort of surprise to anybody that the actual sort of second most expensive one, but for the purpose of our discussion, the next most expensive one after Action Comics #1 is obviously Superman #1. And
first solo title.
Yeah, so and it is literally that. It's like first time he's obviously had his own book. He was in however many issues of Action Comics, and obviously still continues to this day to be in that release. So, but first solo thing. Now, I think that's the thing that always confused me with Superman, especially when I first started. He's like, do the Superman comics run parallel to Action Comics? Or do you know what I mean?
The same thing with Batman, mate. Do Batman Detective Comics run parallel or not?
Yeah, and I think they do, but it's always kind of, again, as I've said earlier on, I haven't read loads of Superman books. Well, certainly not recently. I'm reading more, obviously, Batman, and obviously Batman, you do have like crossovers, don't you? In the modern sort of continuity and everything, you do have crossovers with Detective Comics, but it's still a bit. It's still like in its own right, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? It's a bit strange, but yeah. But Superman #1, again, mad kind of numbers on this one. So the highest one that's ever sold for $456,000. And that was for a 5.0, and that was in May of last year, May 2019, so a year ago. Recently, though, And again, we're talking about restored here. A restored 6.0 sold in May this year, so a couple of weeks ago, for $144,000. But bearing in mind that one was restored, a 3.5 original sold in, I think, March of this year for $288,000, so twice as much, but for a lower grade, but unrestored.
Nice.
So again, just, you know, restored issues and stuff like that. It's just goes to show, don't put your money into any kind of restored issue. I don't know really why people would want to do that anyway.
I think some people don't know they're restored. I mean, I've got that one, that Uncanny X-Men 264 that I had no idea has been restored until I did a bit of research and like look about cleaning it up. I then found out that it's already been tampered with, which means it's been restored, which means I wouldn't get a very good grade on it / would get a restored thing. My mom's here, by the way. Hello, Mom.
Yeah, I just saw Emma. Hello, Emma. How are you doing? But yeah, I mean, one of the things I found this the other, when I was, because I used to, like, as I say, sell trading cards and stuff, and I had this black light to check for fake notes. But apparently people are saying that you should always, if you buy like a high value black light, get a black light and then shine that over. So that's going to potentially come into some use if I do decide to buy some more pricey keys over the years. But yeah, so I just find it it's a shame, isn't it? You know.
Yeah, man. It's the whole slicing thing as well that has done my head in a little bit. I've noticed a couple of times on some stuff I've got that's been sliced to make it look.
Yeah, that's it. Well, it'll be interesting. I think because we're going to obviously start sending stuff off to CGC, it's going to be interesting how our kind of like novice eye to some respects, especially around things like that, will be whether we'll actually get caught out with any restored issues and all that kind of stuff. But it's all going to be a learning curve, isn't it? So,
Mum, if you've got if you're still watching, you've got, you know, a spare £250,000, I'll take one of these books here, please.
Yeah, Superman one. I think before you get there, there'd be a few different books that that would trump that Superman #1.
Oh, I'd sell it.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. Yeah, you'd buy it, sell it, buy all the ones you actually want, and then I don't know, have plenty left over. Don't blame you. But yeah, so Superman #1. So we're going to talk now about some of the books, some of the Superman books that we both kind of just have a bit of affinity to. They are key books again, for various different reasons, and they're not like we haven't picked them through value or anything else, but like, yeah, if we've got a bit of a story behind them, that's what they are. So would you like to go first, Tom?
Yeah, man, what you got me for me first?
I think I got this one, so it's all right. A bit that one. There you go.
Oh, okay, right. So yeah, I picked all new collection edition C56, and the reason for this is not just because it's a key and it's a one shot and it's the first boxing match between Superman and Muhammad Ali, and it's a classic wraparound cover by Neil Adams, and it is also written, and the artwork is inside is by Neil Adams. Now, I only picked this originally because I had this poster when I was youngster because I love Muhammad Ali. So this really resonates with me. I actually had never read it till yesterday when I decided to, you know, give it a bash, because I've obviously I had the poster. I really like the artwork. I love the wraparound. I mean, inside the book, they tell you who's who. There's like silhouettes, and there's like little dots like #1, #2, #3, #4. And there's like I think there's like 200 people on this one wraparound cover, and then there's a list of who's who, and obviously Batman's in there because you can see him in the front, but Wonder Woman's in there too. There's lots of famous people within this thing that you know, Neil Adams has drawn. It's amazing. The story's really good. Muhammad Ali is obviously himself. He plays himself, so he's like this kind of arrogant, you know, a boxing guy that Lois Lane goes to interview. Clark Kent's there. This alien turns up. He's like, we're looking for the best warriors in the earth to be in this kind of ultimate fight, and if you win, we'll leave Earth alone. If you don't, we're going to take Earth over. And Superman just turns up and he's like, no, if it's going to be anyone, it's going to be me. And then Muhammad Ali's like, I'm not being funny, mate, but he said in a fight. He didn't say an alien battle. So they have this kind of tit for tat, Muhammad Ali and Superman, like who's going to take on these people. Really good, actually. And how it turns out in the end is excellent, because it gets to a point where Muhammad Ali and Superman actually do have to have a punch up in a boxing arena to decide who's going to, for the fate of the Earth. It's excellent. It is really good. I didn't expect it to be as good as it was, to be honest.
Yeah, it sounds like a good bit of fun, doesn't it? It's kind of like tongue in cheek, but like with some kind of far-fetched story behind it as well. So it's like, yeah.
In fairness, I think it's the sort of thing that I think it would make a good TV series. That kind of idea and the story that they went through, I think would be a really good TV series. I think standing up as a movie, you'd be a bit like halfway through, you'd be like, let's get on with it now. Like, but then, yeah. I tell you what, though, if Richard Nash is still listening, he's probably buggered off at this point. But if he's still listening, there's a bit in this where Superman and Muhammad Ali go off and they do a bit of training, and it's almost like the hyperbolic time chamber in Dragon Ball Z, and it's really cool. So I'm wondering if that's where they originally got their idea from this book.
That's interesting, man. It's interesting.
I mean, I didn't even know it was a thing, and then it happened, and I was like, "Oh my god, that is just like Dragon Ball Z."
Yeah, that's cool. Nice. Yeah. So we'll talk about my book now. So my book. So the one I'm going to talk about was this very, very iconic cover. Obviously, it is The Death of Superman. Obviously, at the hands of Doomsday. Issue 75, I do believe. And yeah, I mean, this book was the very, very, very first comic that I ever bought. And I'm sure I've got it somewhere, but I went through my comic collection a couple of weeks ago. Didn't come across these books. However, I did come across, just to sort of show you what I did get, is that I got this pack. Now, this was bought at the time, so we're talking June 1993, and this was again around the return of Superman, obviously because you'd had the death of Superman and everything. And then I remember going on this holiday and I bought this pack, and then I bought all of the previous issues and foil covers and all kinds of shit around this time, and that because this was when I started. And yeah, so I've got this still sealed, I may add, because I bought all these. Yeah, well, this was bought in a Kmart, so you can see that. What, $9.89? $9.89, not $9.99. $9.89. So God knows what was going on there, but that was a Kmart. So Kmart isn't the comic shop, but I bought this having already been in the comic shop and buying all the other sort of like older issues. But for the life of me, I can't find them, so I'm a bit bummed out on that. But they'll be somewhere. They'll probably be in another box from when I moved out.
It's such an iconic series of books, The Death of Superman. Like, I remember talking to Sid about it, and him being like, it was one of those sort of things where like people were crying when it happened, because you had no idea whether or not he was going to come back or not. Because at that point, I'm pretty sure anyone that died in comics stayed dead.
Yeah, as I say, I just remember. I remember sitting, and as I say, we were going to the theme parks and stuff in Orlando, like during the day, and then I was coming back, and while I was on holiday, I was reading them. The books themselves are not in good condition because I read them, you know. But as I say, I was about 12 at the time, and it's sort of like I just remember, you know, flicking through these books and just being like, just loving that. Being in that moment, and then you know you had obviously like the Cyborg, you had the introduction of Connor, obviously as Superboy, and then they were all like fighting against themselves to sort of like see who's going to be, the supreme Superman to take over from obviously Superman who's just died, and then lo and behold, obviously Superman ends up coming back to life, and there's everybody else who's a bit like, oh, I think he has a fight with the cyborg Steel, doesn't he? And I think
I can't remember if when he comes back, is he good or is he bad? Is it the black suit or not?
I have a feeling that when he comes back, he's wearing like a black suit with like a sort of silver emblem. So I kind of vaguely remember that, and I remember, and I know he comes back, and then I think he was like, it's a bit like, is it Man of Steel where in like obviously the Henry Cavill whole.
Where he's a little bit disorientated.
He doesn't quite know what he is, but like he's got all these powers, and I think it like takes a little bit of time for him to settle back into normality or to realise who he is. But I vividly remember this. I mean, this book, if we're going to do the numbers, it's not an expensive book, so you can get it for less than like I think about £20 easy. It was massively produced. Like there's probably millions of these books produced, so it's like there's not many that have been graded and stuff like that. But you're talking like you can easily get for between £10 and £20 like a really good copy of this. But
nice to have a collection.
Yeah, they're not they're so out there. It's like. There's so many knocking about. You can pick them up quite cheaply, and away you go. So if I don't find my actual original copy, I will have to buy one of these over the next month or so. Because like I'm a bit, I genuinely would have bet my fucking house that I'd got this with me, but it'll be somewhere. I know it's somewhere. It'll be in a box at my mum and dad's or something stupid. Because it wasn't looked after. It wasn't bagged and boarded. It was not cherished. It was read and probably destroyed. So God knows what I've done with it. Anyway, so we got that one. So I think this one's your next one, mate. So that one.
All right. Okay. Yeah. So my next choice is a comic written by Joe Kelly and Michael Turner, who actually does the cover art for these as well. Which is how I got involved in these books. I actually never had the original issues. My mom bought me the trade paperback of the story, but I went back and bought all the single issues because I loved the story so much, and I luckily enough got the sketch variant of this particular book.
That's classic Michael Turner pencils, isn't it? That's lovely.
Yeah. So it's Action Comics issue 8 to 12. 812, and the story is essentially what they call it's a 4-part story. It goes across Action Comics, Superman, and back and forth, and it's essentially like a what if kind of thing, a bit like what Marvel did. Actually, no, it's not. The other one's a bit more of a what if. This is more of a basically what's happened at the start of this comic is Superman's been bashed into the time stream. And on his way back, he's got lost, and he's ended up on Krypton. Everyone's still alive. Krypton didn't blow up. He's a police officer, but he has no memory of our world or anything. He thinks he's been there the whole time.
Okay.
So the revelation that comes out as the series goes on is really good. And I reread this today, and I completely forgot the twist, and it was not disappointing to reread it for the second time, well, the most millionth time, because I'd forgotten it. It made it so much more better.
Happy days, man.
I love the concept art in this, because at the end of this lovely trade paperback is all of Michael Turner's kind of concept art about how he designed the suit and stuff, because he's got a completely different suit in this. So you've got all like the raw sketches.
Okay.
He designed all the covers and why he designed the suit the way it was, and it's see, like you got the suit design.
Cool.
So essentially, basically, all it is he's that. It's all kids in this cool little armor and stuff. So I think that's what drew me in, is because it wasn't the Superman I knew anything about. So when my mom took me to the comic shop, I was like, can I get that one? And she's like, yeah, of course you can. And then, you know, you read it and it's like, it's not the Superman I know, because he's not on our planet. He's on Krypton. So yeah.
Sounds good.
Very, very good. Godfall is the name of the full set. So yeah, go and read it.
Sounds good, mate. Sounds good. So I do need to sort of like improve me Superman reading, but again, I'm that far behind, and I've got that much other stuff that I want to catch up on, like that I'm really enjoying at the moment. It's really difficult to get back into.
Yeah. Oh god, yeah. At the moment, there's so much good stuff out there as well.
Yeah.
I've just picked up a couple of things to read for Thursday that I'm excited to read that I'd never read before. I was saying to Charlotte, I'm trying to stay away from Marvel and DC for a few weeks so I can get my head into something else, just to see what else is out there, because I only read Marvel and I dip into DC if it's a character I enjoy. So it'd be interesting to broaden my horizons ever so slightly.
Yeah, I'm starting. I'll be reading a different book tonight. I'm going to start. So hopefully I'll get that finished by Thursday. So yeah, I should do so. But yeah, I know what you're saying. It's nice to get your head out that world sometimes, isn't it?
Mm.
But yes, we're going to move on to my sort of next pick, and it's all of mine are pretty much along a very similar theme, really. And it's to basically talk about this one, which is Adventures of Superman 500. Again, this is the Back from the Dead. This is like, the whole resurgence of Superman. This particular one, I do believe, is the one where it's sort of like, I don't know if like Superman's in some kind of like a limbo, but like this one does have actually quite a few like cameos in, because it has a cameo of Steel, as I say, Connor Kent obviously is Superboy, and it's got the Eradicator as well, a cameo of the Eradicator. So so it's quite a key book. Again, in its raw form, it's not an expensive book. It's not even an expensive book in its graded form. But me and you, with our total lack of Superman comic knowledge, did have a very, very lucky find, didn't we?
We did at the comic convention that we went to in Manchester.
Yeah. So we went. We basically went to this Comic Con before lockdown. It was it like not the weekend before?
It was the weekend before, because we didn't know whether or not it was going to go ahead because of Frank Welker and Peter Cullen.
And it was like literally a week before. So it was like second weekend in March. We'd been looking forward to it for ages. You especially, because of your Frank Welker and Peter Cullen autograph signing and picture and everything. And there weren't many comic sellers there, were there? We were a bit disappointed.
No, it was really limited, and even the dollar bins or the pound boxes that you could get to were just a little bit underwhelming. There's a lot of repeats, so you could see what like. You'd pick up an Amazing Spider-Man, and then the next one would be exactly the same comic, and then the next one from that would be the next one. And you'd be like, oh, for God's sake!
Yeah, they were very modern, weren't they? There weren't weren't many finds, and we were bashing our heads.
Yeah, but we had a little walk around at the end before we left, and I was like, "There's a pile of comics down there that are just not very well looked after. I think we should have a shift through."
Yeah.
Happy days, mate.
Nothing expecting, because we did actually find this little beauty. Still in the poly bag, however many years old it is, from 1993, but this is one of the platinum editions.
It's older than me, mate.
Issue 500. So we're going to send this off and get it graded, aren't we? So it is. If you look, you can see the
reflection. NQM purchase.
Yeah, very first. Yeah, that's it. As I say, we got like a couple of Todd McFarlane covers and stuff out there as well, and we literally. Because we didn't know how much these comics were, did we? When we walked over to the box, so it's sort of like we walked over and we were looking through, and I said to you, didn't I? I said we should probably find out how much these are, because I think this had a price label of 25 quid on it, didn't it?
The only one who got a price label. Everything else was £1 or 50 pence.
But he didn't. Well, he didn't know. We didn't know till we asked him, because we asked.
They were all £1, and then that one was the only one priced.
He didn't say anything about the price, because we said how much at the end, and then he tried to barter with us. And we were like, well, you know, what did he said? Because he did that whole awkward thing of like going, well, what do you want to pay for these? Because we asked him how much for these, and he said, how much do you want to pay? And he said 60 quid, and it was like, I'm not
20.
paying 60 quid. And then he was like, let's have a look. And he went through and he said, so I say 60 quid, you say. So it was a bit like and we say, oh, and you say, and it was like, and it was not a good, it was a bit of an awkward situation. And then I think we'd gone back and forth. And I think I said something like stupid, like, because he'd said 60. I said, well, there's 20 bucks there, a tenner. And he was like, nah, that's too low. And then I think he went to 30 or something. And then in the end, it was like, I think you said 15 quid. And then I said, it was just like, I'll shake your hand at 20 quid. And then that's it. And we paid 20 quid. So we paid about £1 each, I think. But it was like, why the fuck he didn't just have a little label on the box saying how much they were for, but nothing on his stall had a price. So that was obviously his way of selling things, wasn't it? You know what I mean, so he it was like a bit of a car boot type of store, wasn't it? So nothing was labelled, nothing was priced, and he obviously liked to have a bit of banter. Because don't forget, Tom, he did pay you a big compliment afterwards as well.
He did actually.
He asked Tom,
but that's probably because I looked like I was about to smack him one.
He just, but he turned around to Tom and he said, "What are you doing here anyway, looking like that?" And I was like, "Oh my god, this is even more weird." And then he just was like, "Look at the size of you. You shouldn't be in here collecting comics." He was fucking, and I just was like, "Oh my god, if anybody's going to say anything and pay Tom a compliment, like literally." So I just say I found that fucking hilarious. I did, but yeah, we found our platinum edition. Didn't know how much it was worth at all, but we're just happy to get away from the bloke stall, I think, weren't we?
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, we're going to send that off to be graded, and it'll be a good return on £1, I think. I don't know. I'd hope to think that we might get a 9.8 because of it being fresh out the packet, but even so, I think anything above a 9.4, a 9.6, we should. I think they're about $100 upwards from like a mid near mint grade. So happy days. But that's all I can say about that one.
That's pretty good though.
But yeah, as I say, that is issue 500, and it has actually got a few like minor keys of the time as well. So it's a nice one to pick up. But yes, so final one for you, mate, and I think it's this one. Yes.
Yeah, Superman: The Dark Side. So this is the one I was going to I'd start to talk about. So this is as if like a what if kind of thing that Marvel does, but DC did it in a sort of roundabout way. I've read this a couple of times. My mom bought it for me when I was younger. I had no idea it was one of 3, and I've never read 2 and 3. I've only read issue 1. Yeah. So I had no idea that there was more to it. So I must have like not really read it. Do you know what I mean? Like you just flick through, look at the pictures, sort of thing.
Yeah, because I've got that hardcover there of the Dark Multiverse.
Oh right, yeah, okay.
So I don't know if that's got anything similar. If that's a similar
this is quite an old one, mate.
Yeah. No, I know that's old. I just wonder if they've got a Dark Multiverse. If that's the dark side of Superman, whether it's kind of like a similar idea or anything.
Could well be. It could well be. The idea behind this is that once Krypton died and they sent Superman off to Earth, it was intercepted by Apocalypse. So he actually grew up on Darkseid's Apocalypse rather than Earth. So he becomes a killing machine, not a nice guy.
That's so cool.
So he becomes the ultimate weapon, as it were. The armor in it is pretty sick.
Yeah, it looks cool on the cover.
It's got a really cool. He wields a sword and all sorts.
So your lightsaber.
He's on fire. Look.
Yeah.
I mean, he's so cool. The whole premise behind it is really cool. So basically, he is intercepted by by Darkseid. He grows up on Apocalypse, becomes this warmongering killing machine. Apocalypse sends him to New Genesis to take on the new gods. He destroys their planet, but in doing so, the High Father touches him and says, "This is not your fate. This is not who you were supposed to be." Gives him a glimpse of what he was supposed to be. He then ends up on Earth, and the last panel is Lois Lane dragging him out of the water. So I don't actually know what happens after that. So I'm going to have to get the other issues, I think. But this is written by John Francis Moore, and the artwork is by Kieran Dwyer.
Cool.
But it's really good. I enjoyed it, and it's one of those ones, along with Godfall and my Spawn Bible, that you can tell I've overread, because there's dinks and dents and bits and stuff missing. It's ridiculous. Thanks, Mom. Sounds
good, man. Sounds good. But yeah, so the only one I've got left to talk about, and it's this particular one that's up on the screen here. So this is Superman, obviously, #1 Rebirth. It's a tough one to talk, because this one again, I did read these comics when they first came out, when they did the whole Rebirth thing, and I'm obviously reading I don't think I've got them here. I've got them next door, but I'm reading the Superman Rebirth at the moment. So my plan is to read the Batman Rebirth stuff, and then I'm going to come over to read the Superman stuff, and I'm trying to think of that as a bit of a reboot into catching up with what's going on in Superman at the moment, so I can maybe potentially start buying Superman books again. But this one, as I say, it's a bit of a sentimental one as well, because I bought this, which is San Diego Comic-Con exclusive from, I don't know if it says 2016, I think. Obviously that's a Jim Lee art cover there. And this basically is quite special to me, because it was bought at, as I say, in would have been 2017 when I went to a Comic-Con, but it was the first Comic-Con that I went to with my now wife. But it was the first Comic-Con that Holly had ever been to. And I bought the Star Wars slabs that I've got there, and then I bought this. I think it was £40 at the time, and I think it's a similar kind of value if I was to buy a raw one now. So it hasn't necessarily gone up in value, but yeah, it's a bit of a special kind of issue. I've got a lot of the up in. I should have brought them down actually, but I think they're not worth a great deal of money. I think it's issue 10 in the Rebirth line. It's the first appearances of Jonathan and Damian, Jonathan Kent and Damian Wayne. I think so there's like quite the cover on there. It's quite famous with the introduction of them into the Rebirth sort of like storyline. So yeah, it was, and that's why this issue was sort of like a bit of a nice one for me, because I've got the San Diego, I've got the Comic-Con exclusive, but yeah, it was the first Comic-Con I've gone to with my back then obviously girlfriend, but now obviously my wife. So it's a bit of a special one. That is not a massively expensive book, like I say. That special edition, as I say, you can pick up for about £50, but I think like the issue ones, the standard first prints, I think they're sort of like a couple of quid in pound bins and stuff, so nothing that you have to worry about. And even the 9.8, this convention exclusive's only around about the £100 mark, so it's special to me, and I am going to get that one graded at some point, because it is a very good, very, very pristine kind of issue. But yeah, well, I've never actually read that one, because obviously I've read the normal Raws when they came out, because they were on my subscription list at the time. So
nice.
Yeah, so nice indeed. But that's my last Superman key I'm going to mention anyway today. So I am pretty much all done. Shall we mention the giveaway, Tom?
I haven't got it with me, but yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, if you do, keep obviously watching us. we are doing a giveaway at the moment. We have mentioned it in the previous videos that we've done, but basically, if you want to take part and stand the chance of winning an NQM crate that has obviously an original sketched comic of Thor in it that Tom has sketched. If you want to see that, obviously check us out on Instagram and stuff. We've got images and everything. But also, you'll get another 10 like randomly selected sort of comics from our NQM community long box. And yeah, just do that to take part. Hashtag NQM crate giveaway in the comments down below, and we'll get you entered. And that is pretty much it. So make sure you subscribe, guys. Give us a thumbs up. Hit the bell. And I will tell you, see you next time.
Yeah, and I'm going to say stay home, stay safe, take care of each other, keep reading comics.